Well, hello. Welcome back to Soul Search Sunday with Johnny Tiger. The date is June 12th, 2022. You are looking at the main star, the main attraction of many of our Music Monday videos. Or at least I hope you are. I mean, I never quite know if I get the angle right, but yeah, you're not getting a view of the beautiful tree outside today. Instead, you should be, if I got the angle correct, looking down at my piano keyboard. It is not much of a keyboard, honestly, not even a real keyboard. This keyboard is at least 20 years old, and even back then, it was just a kid's model. It only has 61 keys. It doesn't have uh, any touch sensor or weighted key. It doesn't feel like a real piano. It doesn't sound like a real piano. It doesn't play like a real piano. I guess in some ways it is quite amazing that it has been uh, what I make music with for so many Music Monday, so many videos, so many musical albums, so many performances. But we'll talk more about this keyboard in a little bit. Yesterday, I sat down and opened my browser and went onto Amazon, feeling that nagging little voice in my mind, the same voice that I have been hearing for at least the last 10 years. The little voice that said, dude, get yourself a proper piano keyboard. What the hell? You call yourself a professional. You want to make music. You play live for people. How can you do this? You need a proper instrument. So I went onto Amazon and started looking. And as I looked, my mind took me back to my long musical, well, career, I suppose, to the very beginning. My first and only piano, the first and only piano I ever had, was purchased by my father when I was 9.5 years old. When he, uh, on the spirit of the moment, forced me and my brothers into taking music lessons. Yeah, that's the way my father did things. Not like, would you like to learn the piano? But you are going to learn the piano. It's not like, hey, piano would be fun. Would you like to try it? No. It's like, you know, Beethoven and Mozart and Chopin play piano really well. So you are going to play the piano really well. You're going to make a lot of money playing piano because you're blind. So you're going to play piano. That piano was my daily companion for the next 3, maybe 4 years of my childhood. It was a beautiful piano. I don't remember what it was, but it was one of those upright model, very fancy, probably cost a lot of money. When I was 12 and a half, almost 13, one day I came home and the piano was gone. My father decided to sell the piano to pay off his gambling debt. Even to this day, if you ask him about that piano, he will still assert that He only sold it because I didn't like to play it. Yeah, way to go, Dad. Shift the blame on me. You know why I didn't like to play it? I was blind. I was being moved to Canada from Taiwan, back to Taiwan from Canada. I had tons and tons of schoolwork to catch up on every time a move like that was made. After school, I had taekwondo lesson, judo lesson, karate lesson, swimming lesson, and uh, tutors that was supposed to help me with science and math and stuff like that, and piano lesson. So pray tell, when would I have the time to enjoy that piano? Honestly, most of the time, by the end of the day, by the time I finished my 2 hour piano lesson, I didn't even want to see that thing anymore. So, suffice to say, I wasn't too sorry to see that piano go. It was a surprise because I thought that belonged to me. I thought, they told me it was my piano. And I came home and it was gone. No uh, second way about it. Didn't even ask my permission to sell it. Just gone. But like I said, I was being overwhelmed with so many stuff, and I really didn't miss it until much later. When I was 14, so about a couple of years later, um, I started to miss my piano. By this time, my father was deep into gambling and definitely was not in a position to buy me a new piano. So I saved up my allowances for a year and a half and bought myself a piano keyboard. It wasn't a very good one because back then piano keyboard was very expensive. It was a kit model. It didn't even have a sustain paddle or key change or any of the more fancy function. It was just a kit model, 61 keys, and just as basic as you can get. But even that cost me over $400 Canadian. I treasured that little keyboard. That little keyboard was there with me throughout my high school. That little keyboard was the keyboard that I wrote some of my first songs on. That little keyboard was what I used to record some of my first albums. And that little keyboard was what I used to uh, play during some of my earliest, most low end concerts. Finally, at around 2004, 2005, that little keyboard, after about 10 years of service, started to quit. Like I said, it was kind of cheap and, you know, kids model, not very well made to begin with. So I was actually kind of surprised it lasted 10 years. Uh, Many of the program in functions stopped working. Many of the keys stopped working. But I braved on. I muscled on because I was just trying to finish university at that time. I definitely didn't have the money or the time to justify buying a new one. A couple of years later, around 2006, 2007, my very good friend John passed away. and he left me this little keyboard that you're looking at right now. John, in his old age, had tried to learn how to play the piano, tried to pick up a new hobby, but it never took. So when I inherited this the piano, it was almost like new. It's barely better than my previous keyboard. This is still 61 key, still a kid's model, still have no weighted key and no touch sensor, nothing like that. However, this one does have a sustained pedal, and it has fancy uh, functions like key changer and uh, rhythm, uh, speed changing, and different like about 100 different songs programmed into it that you can play along with. It wasn't ideal, but well, I wasn't having any luck making the purchase to replace my old one. And hey, this was from John, so there's a definite sentimentality to it. This keyboard, like I said, it was already secondhand when I inherited, so this is at least 20 years old. And uh, other than a couple of broken keys and some bad connection in the wiring, it still kind of works. It has been with me through most of my later albums, my concerts, my music videos, as you guys have seen. Now, let's talk about some of the close calls, some of the misses I've had with piano. When I was in high school, I was extremely, extremely good at music. I was that student who got A and commendation and awards in music class almost every semester. I was a student that they came to when they needed someone to play in uh, an event, a ceremony. I was that person that came to if they needed an extra person in a different band that I wasn't in. Um, I was the person to approach if they needed someone to write a song for a school project. I was that student that the music teacher would come to if he needed something done uh, in uh, regarding to music. However, my relationship with my music teacher was very tumultuous and uncomfortable. I even to this day I'm not quite sure what was the issue, but the guy didn't like me. He really, really didn't like me to the point where in our music class there was a beautiful baby grand piano in the class itself. And then in the back room, there was a beaten up old 50-year-old piano that was totally out of tune and like the wood was chipped and the bench was half broken. Just the kind of piano that was ready to be thrown away. My music teacher never, never let me play that baby grand in the class. If I wanted to practice, if I wanted to write a song, if I wanted to use the piano, he told me to go to the back room and use that old beaten up piano. So throughout most of my high school years, when I had time, I would spend hours in the back room of that music class with that old beaten up piano, trying to make the best out of it. In early 2000, my girlfriend at the time, so my ex-girlfriend now, came to me and told me, "Hey, you may be getting a new piano." Well, not really new, but you may be inheriting a piano. A friend of mine passed away, and she left me her piano, and it's a beautiful antique, very well tuned. So I hope you'll be happy. I was very excited. I was because I seen that piano. I met this friend. I seen that piano. It's one of those piano that has a phonograph and record player attached to it. And as you play the record, the keys would go up and down themselves to show you which key play which in the song and stuff like that. It was gorgeous. It was a beautiful antique. And then a couple of weeks later, my ex-girlfriend called me and said, "Oh, I hate to tell you, but my brother said he wants the piano, so he's taking it." Now, this was totally ridiculous. I mean, I was in no position to complain because it was her brother, so whatever. It was, it wasn't my piano to say yay or nay with. But why I think it was ridiculous because her brother did not play music. Never. Like, I'm not talking about him playing music but badly. I'm talking about him never touched musical instrument. He wanted that piano because he wanted a nice decoration for his huge house. But well, what can I say? Like I said, it wasn't my piano. So if he wanted it and if she wanted to give it to him, then who was I to complain? As years went by, I became a fixture in my ex-girlfriend and her family's life, and I became that very talented boyfriend who always played music during Christmas. I was the I was the Christmas Carol. I would entertain the whole family on the piano that her parents kept, and the idea was that after her parents passed away, I would inherit that piano because no one else in that family even played piano. Well, then, of course, as fate would have it, we broke up, and so that went down the tube. A few years ago, one of my really, really good friends bought a piano for his son, a baby grand, gorgeous instrument, cost an arm and a leg and maybe a kidney as well. But then the son refused to play it due to various reasons that I'm not going to go into here. My friend asked me if I wanted that piano. Unfortunately, I had to turn it down because to accept it would cause some friction between me and his family member and his partner because they wanted him to sell that piano and recoup some of that money. I wanted him to sell that piano and recoup some of money too. However, just like a really good friend, he said to me, he said, "I would much rather this piano go to someone who can make use out of it than selling it to someone who might not even care." So as you see, so down the years, I had some close calls. I brushed past like boats in the night, some opportunities to come by piano, but every single time it didn't work out. As I Browsed on Amazon yesterday looking at piano keyboard. I was amazed at how cheap they are nowadays. This model, this kid's model that you're looking at that is 20 years old probably cost like $500 20 years ago. Nowadays, even a $200 model would be 10 times better than this one. So some people would say, well, how come you haven't bought yourself a new one? What are you waiting for? Well, that's a good question. I wish I know. I think maybe part of what's holding me back is because this keyboard, this tiny little kit model, is one of the last trace of John that I have in my life. So I'm very reluctant to part company with it. Um, and also, seems like every time I think about buying myself a piano keyboard, something around the house need uh, a lot of money. Uh, Need a new vacuum cleaner or a new computer chair or a new computer or the cat needs vet bill paid, etc., etc., etc. Who knows? Maybe sometime soon I will finally bite the bullet and get myself a proper piano keyboard. And fear not, you guys will be the first people to see it and enjoy it if I do.